Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in a peaceful barbarian village preparing for the wedding of Queen Amethea. The groom Argan is loved by the whole village and is quite the formidable warrior as we soon get to see. While taking her monthly bath, Amethea is told by Tiniara that her little sister has gone walkabout in the woods. Princess Taramis is picking flowers for the wedding when being set upon by a more barbarian group of barbarians. They hold her down and barbarize her, then enslave her for the warlord and connoisseur of loose women Arrakur. He sends his army to sack the village by shooting an old man in the face who was on his way out anyway. Argan or this dude named Strymon would have been better targets, as they're the only warriors in the village who kill about a dozen soldiers apiece. Amethea comes out of her hut swinging and kicking, but the invading force is too large, so resistance is futile. Many of the soldiers are so distracted trying to take girls right there in the dirt that they just let themselves get stabbed in the back. All hope for the village surviving is lost when Argan and his buddy are captured and taken alongside Taramis into bondage. This old dude who tried to accost Amy in her hut earlier is still crawling around, so she boots him in the face and retreats inside. She sets the incredibly flammable place on fire in order to make the bandits believe she's dead, and fortunately they leave without bothering to check. Estrild was sent into the woods to find the queen's sister earlier, so she's the only other person who doesn't get captured or killed. But also cowered behind a tree the entire battle because she's less of a barbarian and more of a Barbie. As she counts the dead, the queen climbs out of the rubble, having been hiding inside her bathtub and luckily didn't boil alive. She vows to get revenge and rescue her loved ones, so they go down to the river to get cleaned up. For some reason, Estrild uses saliva to wipe the dirt off her queen until they remember that water can be used as well. Just then they hear someone approaching, but it's just Tiniara, who says she killed her captor and stole his horse and loaf of bread. The three choose to ditch the horse and canoe downriver until they reach a military outpost containing a few of the soldiers left behind. Amethea uses her eagle eyes to spot a creepy man about to force himself on a captive, so the girls go ashore. They interrupt the tender moment and Amy runs her sword through the neck of the same guy she booted earlier. One of the soldiers goes to check out why he can't hear any ravishing, but Tina distracts him while the queen shoots him from the roof. She then tackles another into the river, where she hits him with the hilt of her sword and he just kinda disappears into a red puddle. Tiniara engages one on the land while Amy another while knee deep in water, but don't ask where Estrild is during all of this. If she just walked up and stabbed either of these guys it would be a big help, but her friends eventually do it on their own anyway. Estrild was acting like a pillow for the now dead girl, while Tara finds a traumatized Taramis safe, but only physically. She's quite messed up in the head from all the defiling and doesn't seem to even remember their village was attacked. They decide to drag her along for the revenge mission anyway, so take the dead dude's horses, and I think there's also a prince to save. However, on the edge of the kingdom they're ambushed by a village of resistance fighters, so Amy says, "We're on the same side, you silly fool." The villagers are like, oh, then agree to help smuggle them into the city with the help of their leader's daughter Dariak. The young girl disguises herself as a boy, or maybe not, and leads the invaders through an underground passage beneath the city. Her cycloptic father is afraid to take up arms with them because he might lose the other one, so the girls sneak inside the city without backup. They enter through the sheet dyeing facility or whatever, then split up because there probably wouldn't be any trouble if they just stayed together. The queen locates her husband being forced to fight as a gladiator in a cheap wooden arena that she absolutely adores. Taramis is left alone with that broken brain of hers, so surrenders herself to King Arrakur, who welcomes her with open bedsheets. He has a little person tugging on the chandelier that never gets shown again and dresses Tara in the feathers from tonight's dinner. Miss Stockholm Syndrome asks for a new puppy and Arrakur kinda looks at her confused before looking down and agreeing to anything. He then says, "Oh look, a bed," while everyone searches the streets for Tara, and Estrild runs into a couple of guards pressing up against their codpieces. They take turns checking the distressed girl's neck for a pulse, then bring her back to the castle, but are spotted by Amy and Tina in her charming headwrap. They leap in to rescue their friend, but vastly overestimated their abilities, so are easily captured and thrown in the dungeon. Tiniara gets interrogated first and is told that she's too pretty to be broken down into dog food, which is quite the compliment. Arrakur then leaves her with a guard to be tortured with fire, but she keeps her mouth shut about the rebel base's location. Tina escapes because they don't know how to tie a basic knot and has a torch duel with a guard who has a sword on his hip. She runs away but is stabbed by a guard waiting outside and dies while still having her body interrogated post-mortem. Meanwhile, Arrakur walks into Amy's cell and is like, "Holy hell, you're even hotter than the last one, show me your boobs please."
Clothes off.
He doesn't even bother to ask her any questions about the resistance, but while inspecting if they're real, Amy bites him on the cheek. Arrakur runs away, probably to get cleared by a doctor, while Shibby straps Amy to a stretching rack with a metal glove aimed at her chest. Elsewhere, Estrild is sent to a harem of women pleasuring the gladiators and takes orders from a wizard pimp who looks like Rob Schneider.
Come on, come on!
The food looks delicious, but Estrild has to deal with Spartacus hitting on her until Argan scares him away with his pecs. The prince learns that his barbarian bride has come to save him and that if they're lucky the resistance might help them, but that's a bit iffy. Meanwhile, Arrakur and Taramis watch Amy receive a purple nurple, which is a torture that Cohen never had to deal with. She still refuses to answer any questions and Tara keeps quiet about being her sister, so Arrakur leaves Shabibi to do his thing. That includes forcing himself on the prisoner, but Amy clamps down on his Johnson like a pit bull with her barbarian clam muscles.
I will!
She squeezes until he releases her hands, then pushes him into a vat of acid for one hell of an elaborate escape. Estrild's is a bit less invasive as she just lures a guy away from the crowd and sticks him in the neck before he sticks her with his peck. She then reconnects with Amy and they run around the castle avoiding the guards for a bit before splitting up because that's always a good idea. Amy lures the guards away while Estrild informs the slaves that they'll escape tomorrow during the gladiator games when rebels will be among the crowd. Amy loses the guards despite this right here being a dead end and finds Dariac sitting in the shadows outside of the hideout all creepy. While being perfectly framed by some of her own, she's told that the resistance has moved, which was smart in case these girls snitched. Estrild is like the messenger pigeon for the two resistance groups and sneaks out of the castle but stops halfway to fix up her headdress because priorities. She relays the message that the gladiators are ready to fight, but the cycloptic leader standing with his entire army says they're still too scared. Amy arrives and the people must just like her more because they immediately switch to saying, "We would all die for you, random lady." When the gladiator games begin, Arrakur introduces the greatest fighters in the world, but these are just some villagers from half a mile away. They begin fighting anyway while the rebels spread out and do that thing where a heist crew all nod their heads at each other from across the casino. The wizard pimp catches Estrild, but Amy runs him through with a sword and they hide his body in some lucky person's home. It turns out that Shrek has gone and betrayed his gladiator brothers, getting the Barbarian Queen and her whole crew captured. Amy is about to be beheaded for a change in today's entertainment, but Derry throws her a very light sword and somehow weighs enough to knock over a full-grown ogre. He seemed to be the only thing standing between a full-blown peasant's revolt, because if that little girl can do that, then these guys aren't so tough. During the battle we cut between the Barbarian Queen and her fiancé slashing their way through crowds of inept fighters. Strymon bashes some people with a hammer while Estrild saves the one-armed Cyclops who should really go home. Argan fights the traitor in an epic brawl until the prince eventually kills him with a bear hug, which is why this dude feared the pecs. Instead of helping Argan, then just watches Amethea do everything else, including steal a horse to scale the stage when there was a ladder right there. She kills Arrakur's right-hand creep, then confronts the man who brainwashed her sister by buying her a puppy that we never even got to see. Amy throws 2 strikes, then is basically on the defensive for the entire duel all the way until she's backed up to one side. She could really use the help of a husband right about now, but Argan says we aren't married yet, so she's disarmed and Arrakur prepares for the finishing blow. Taramis finally comes to her senses and charges at Arrakur, stabbing him in the back, then implores the finger web defense. It's super effective and the evil dictator dies while everyone lets out a cheer as they had finished the battle and were just standing around. Now that it's safe, Argan comes out of hiding and shares a less passionate kiss with his bride than Gandalf did with the slave girl. And the movie ends.